All right, all right. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Good morning to the Grace Talks community. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is a Sunday morning, beginning of a new day, new weekend. I found myself in my prayer this morning saying, "This is the day that the Lord has made. I indeed will. I choose to rejoice and be glad in it." And of course, He is the reason for our rejoicing. His grace, the sufficiency of His grace is really the main reason why we wake up this morning and we choose to rejoice. Ladies, good morning. And gents, because we do have gentlemen that join us on this platform. Good morning. It's Grace Talks time, and today we are continuing from last week. And so I'm not even going to be very long in my greetings, so that because we ran out of time last week. So we decided, you know what, let's have part two. Let's have part two today, so that we do not we get as much as possible from this powerhouse of a woman, from this walking theater of grace kind of person. But of course, as it is tradition to us, let's do our greetings. All right. While I'm greeting, you know the drill by now. If there's someone that is not here, your prayer partner is not here, your friend is not here, someone that you know needs such messages to start their week, tag them wherever it is that you are, or share for them so that they can also benefit. I'm going to start though. We have Usikanyisile. She took the front row seat this morning. Good morning, Ko Bulawayo. Good morning, sister. Thank you so much for joining us. And then Das B is in the house. Morning, Kanyi. Thank you so much. Good morning, Tembi. Thank you so much for joining us. And then Gabs is in the house. So we just got basic representation. We're just missing words. Eswatini and Lesotho to come and check in as well. Otherwise, we are in the house. Good morning, Anati. Ketu's joining us from Poch. Thank you so much. Good morning, Ketumeti. Michelle joining us also from Gabs. Looks like Gabs is in the house this morning. Good morning, Michelle. Morning, Sandile. Thank you so much for joining us. And we've got Kamukhelo joining us from right here in PE. Good morning so much. Morning, Sifu. Good to see you. Good to see you here. Midran is here. All right. Good morning. Nezi Shem. Yes, please. Let's wake up Tendo, guys. Otherwise, she's not going to forgive me. Please, somebody, thank you so much. Pizoza, good morning, my friend. It's good to have you here this morning. It's good to have you here this morning. All right. Swatini is in the house. So we are starting to come together. The house is we're starting to have a quorum. We're starting to have a quorum. Good morning, guys. Sioyo joining us from Cape Town. Good morning. And somebody please tag the lioness so that we may be able to indeed have everybody here. All right, ladies. I thank you so much for joining us. And as I said, last week we did have our guest. So this is a part two of a conversation, of a talk we had last week that was just completely revolutionary. All right. Those of you who are here, in fact, can I just see by a show of hands or an indication if you were here last week? All right. If you were here last week and you are here for the second time, I'd like you to just indicate for me in the chats that I'm here for part two. That's what I'd like you to say. Here for part two, because then I know that there are some people that the people that ask for part two are actually here. Otherwise, we might find ourselves having to have a bit of a recap so that we can bring everybody on board. And I see my sister there is getting ready so that she can join in. So if you were here last week, thank you so much. And I'd like to hear from you. Yes, there we go. All right, we have quite a few people that were here last week and they are here now for part two. Thank you so much. And ladies, those of you who were here for last week, if you have a question, something that you wanted as you were reflecting maybe last week on last week's proceedings, you've got something that you think, you know what, I would like to ask again, or I'd like to hear again, or I'd like this based on what I heard last week. And I know some people were catching us, we were catching up during the course of the week. And so if you got a question or a comment from last week's Grace Talks, I'm going to ask you to put it down now so that Nonhlanhla can also attend to it if needs be. All right. But anyway, let's bring our guest in. We don't want to be too rude and speak in the absence of our guest. And there we go. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, Nonhlanhla. How are you?
Good morning, beautiful beauty. Thank you so much for the welcome. I'm excited to be back here. It really is beginning to feel like home, and I love
Yeah.
that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Last week you came and you were just home. You were home and we were happy. We were very happy to have you here
Thank
in our
you.
home. The community is here. People are here. People were catching themselves up during the week. Those that missed it live were catching themselves up, and the conversation continues. And that's the whole idea of these conversations, that in 1 hour we may not be able to do everything. And I want us to start here for the benefit of those that were not here last week, because what we've done today, we've divided our conversation into 3 parts. All right. You talking about yourself as a woman in progress. And the truth is, we have found ourselves in your stories. And so this is a conversation about us, but you are just a heaven appointed agent to speak on our behalf, to tell a little bit of our story. And dare I say, to tell the things about us that we don't have the courage to tell. But we know that, you know what, we are found in that. And I love how you have structured it. Basically, you have found yourself in many of the women in the Bible. And today we're going to talk about how you have found yourself in the woman at the well, in the story of David, how you have found yourself there, how you have found yourself, of course, with the woman with the issue of blood. But I want us to just briefly, as a recap, for those of us who are joining us for the first time, you say you are a woman in progress. All right.
Yes.
And I'd like you to just start there as a means of introduction. But otherwise, ladies, Nonhlanhla is the CEO and founder of her company, which is a coaching company, training company. I often say it's a human capital development company where you are helping us using your company. And she's the CEO of that company. She's a speaker. She's soon to be an author, man. I want to call you an author. She's a speaker. She's a radio personality. She does all sorts of wonderful things. And through her company, but I think also in her personal capacity. So I just thought, let me give that, so that even as people are listening to you now, that I don't feel sorry for you, because we are where we are. We are here now, but that we were once there. In fact, we are women in progress. Speak to that before we continue.
Thank you so much, Beauty. One of the reasons I named myself Woman in Progress, it is the fact that I realized that life was not putting me at any point where I felt completely done and perfect. Yes, I am perfect because I am made in the perfect image of God. However, in my journey of life, I could never get to a point where I was like, this is it, I'm done. This is me. There's nothing more God can do for me. And I refuse to get to that point. And that is why I call myself Woman in Progress, because I do believe that I am a vessel that God keeps shaping over and over and over again. And sometimes when you think you're a cup, he turns you into a plate, depending on who he wants to serve, right?
Yeah.
So I never find myself in such a perfect state where I'm like, okay, this is it. God has done all he can about me. Kuphelile. No. I refuse to get to that point. And that is why I call myself Woman in Progress, because I really do believe that there is so much more that God can do with us, only if we allow him to. If I today, what winner? You're going to be a teaspoon. Be that tomorrow, because he is the author of our lives, right? He is the artist who's molding this thing. If he decides tomorrow, I'm going to break you, I'm going to break the teaspoon that you are, because today I want to make you a calabash. I want more people to get out of you. So that is why I've named myself that, to allow God to continue to perfect me, to continue to use me, and where I do wrong, that he still has the authority to fix me. Because the minute we think we have arrived, we are no longer fixable.
Yeah, no. I love that. And I think what makes it attractive for me is that we are a theater of grace. Because when you see yourself as a woman in progress, number one, you give yourself grace. You give yourself grace, and you give yourself room to grow. And I love that you basically place yourself in the hands of the potter, and he continues to shape you. And depending on what he chooses, you become that. But also, it allows us, and we are a women empowerment platform, to see each other with those same eyes.
Yes.
That we don't rule and finish about you when we know what's going on about you now, and we conclude that this is it. But that we give you grace, that you know what, Nonhlanhla might be going through a teaspoon moment right now, or she might be going through an in-between moment right now. That the Lord has put you, has dismantled you, and He's busy shaping you into something that we do not even see yet, that you yourself do not see, but that we give you grace to know that she's in progress. I love how Simone puts it. She says, we are women under construction. You know, I love that. Anyway, so I've fallen in love with your concept, and I think It's absolutely beautiful. And Kate just comment, I refuse to be done. That's true.
Yeah,
The
no,
minute
refuse
you
to be
arrive,
done.
you are at your worst.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to waste time, and I've already started to do so. Let's go straight. You see yourself in many of the stories in the Bible,
Yes.
but the one that we want to talk about this morning is the woman at the well. We spoke about her a little bit last week, Wednesday. By the way, inspired by our conversation of last week. So let me start there.
Yes. In our walk with God, we need to find ourselves in Him. So He decided, and He told us this long before, that I am in you. But now it is also in us to go into God and find ourselves in there. So as I was going through life and I wanted to understand what was happening with my life, I decided not to look at my life, but look at the lives that He describes in His word, which He says it's His. God says the word is His. He is the word. And I understood what the woman at the well was going through. The fact that she would have to wait until the other ladies are done at the well so that she can go there, knowing very well the shame that she is carrying. So, in my walk of life, I walked with shame. I walked in shame. And there was a
Yeah,
time when I decided that I'm going to withdraw from the world and take a step back because I could no longer carry my shame. I There were names attached to my life that I could not carry, right? There were the girl who was pregnant at 14, the 27-year-old who was in a relationship with a married man. My few friends who had told about the abortion knew that. So those were the things that were used to describe me. And I had to go into a corner. And that was me at that well, all alone, making sure that other people don't see this. Because
yes.
in public, I would have to pretend that I was okay. But when I was with Him, I allowed Him to tell me about myself even before I could describe myself. So
Yes, yeah.
God knew everything that I had done. He knew everything that I did, even without me telling Him, right?
Yeah.
To others in the world, I would hide what I was doing. And it was possible for me to do that. But to
Yeah.
God, I couldn't hide who I was. And just like that woman at the well who Jesus approached and told her everything that she had done, He did that to me. And that is why last week I said, do allow God to take
Yeah.
you back.
Take you back.
Take you back to a point where you were wrong. God is very candid with us. He
Yeah.
knows the wrongs that we are doing. He does not count them against us because if He did, many of us would not even be alive, right? But because there's
Yeah.
the theater of grace, we are here today. And under the theater of grace, on that bed, when He is molding you, He doesn't count it against you what you did. The only reason He wants to put your mind in there is because correction comes
Yeah.
with responsibility. So
Yeah.
when you are corrected, you need to take responsibility. And that
Yeah.
was the conversation I had with Him at the well to say, you know what? I'm going to take responsibility. Just like this woman that you are sitting with at the well, as I'm reading your word, I am
Yeah.
going to be here. And as I turn around and go, I'm going to stop yearning for the waters of this world and yearn for your water because you say, if I drink from you, I will thirst no more. So
Amen.
here's my thirst. My thirst is what pushed me to even
Yeah.
be in wrong relationships. Hold it back. Give
Yeah.
me what is out of you so that I
Give
will
me that
thirst.
water.
So that's where the responsibility comes to say, Nonhlanhla, taking responsibility means you are now going to start saying no. Remember, I spoke about me having
Yeah.
said yes last week. God said, if you drink out of my cup, then you
Yeah.
will have the strength and the confidence to say no. And I said,
Yeah.
please help me take responsibility so much so that I'm able to say no. And then He said to me, we are not done. Don't be quick. Just drink from me and walk
Yeah.
away.
And walk
We are not
away.
done. What are you going to say to the world when you get
Yeah.
out there? Imagine that that woman who was known for having 5 men who did not even belong to her. Imagine that person having to stand in front of the community and say, God is alive, and say, God loves me. The conviction that you need to go and convince a community that has seen you do these things and say to them, I am back here. I am your child. God has sent me back to you. And I'm here to proclaim to you that God fixes people. God fixes people, and He fixes us with love. So I am here. I have no spot of what I did. Yes, you remember what I did. Maybe you don't see a different me, but just see the one who sent me. More than anything, don't see me, see the one who sent me. So just like that woman at the well, I felt myself getting rid of the worldly thirst, because it was there. It was there. Even after, I think there was a time when the devil was using me so much so that I only attracted married men. I would go to a wedding. You know, when you are at the wedding, you know that everybody is here to embrace this institution of marriage that God has put. You've just seen the bride and the groom saying their vows and stuff. I would be sitting there mingling with people, and I would be approached by a married guy. And I asked myself, is there anything about me that makes the world see me? Because I'd be in a different province. I'd be approached by those. And I said to God, God, this is me and you now. Take this thing away. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I get to attract those people. The devil has made me so available to wrong that they find it easy, And the first thing that God made me question was that, why is it so easy for people to approach me about this? And then God reminded me about taking accountability, because when I take accountability and come out and speak like this, if there's a man on this platform listening to me this moment, they know very well good, hey, Lorna uzoshlupha, as if I go to
I can't go there.
Will expose our story. Yeah, understand. So they don't dare play around me. And that is why I make this story so public, because it is also serving as my protection. You see, once you've walked away from something wrong, it's not only that you just need to be away from it, you need the protection to not be attracted back there. You need the protection that will remind you now and then that even when the devil attacks, know what to say.
Yeah. You've answered me this morning, because I had a question, and the question was for me, but it was also, I think, on behalf of many people, certainly the young women that we work with. Uguti, how do you get over? How do you move from the Nonhlanhla, from the names that were characterizing you for many years?
Yes.
The one who had a child from an early age, from the woman who has had many abortions, and of course in other settings, the whole issue of even having a child out of wedlock, having been with him. In other words, how do you transition, or how did you transition from those names and those titles to the one to woman in progress, and carrying it so gracefully and carrying it so beautifully? So you've answered me today, and because many a times, and I love your approach is beautiful, because it's dual. Because many a times what we do is we go and do the either the internal work and continue to be the woman in progress without taking accountability and responsibility for our actions in that. I'm the one who said yes. There might have been many reasons that caused me to say yes to the married woman, but I did say yes. I'm the one that said yes. There might have been many reasons for why I went and had the abortion, but I'm the one that had it. So I love your accountability. But having said that, Nonhlanhla, and I want you to speak to someone now who wants what you have, or what you are having, and now putting the present continuous tense as you have given us, that I'm growing towards this, who says, I carry these names, and people don't even know, many people don't even know, but there are those that know, and they know that I have these names. I carry these names. How do I move from there to here? But most importantly, how do I deal with, and it's kind of some, what's our Tina band? Now, we're not asking everybody to come public here and tell their story in public. You need to be emotionally ready to do that. But some people don't even come public, but they're afraid to do something new because they are known for something bad. They're afraid to take courage. Something as simple sometimes as giving in church a young woman who has had a child out of wedlock. Now the church is asking them to work again, to lead a department. But they know, and people know. But so the whole issue of people in our story. Do you want to speak to that? How do we get the whole people story? Like the woman at the well, who now had the courage to go and face the people because she was
Yes.
a woman.
Now, when you read through that story, she describes herself when she gets there, right? When she gets to the people, she tells them, Guti, I met a man who told me about me even before I could say it. So that's the point where she then takes responsibility. She takes accountability. Why does it matter that you take accountability? Once you relate your story, you disempower the next person to relate it. So people, once I tell the people what I did, I disempower them from reminding me what I did. Now they know that I know what I did, right? And God knows what I did, but He has sent me back as a different woman. So this woman actually first exposed herself even to those that knew her, and they thought they know her up to that part. But then she comes back and says, I met a man who told me about all these men that I've been sleeping with before I could even tell him. But let me tell you, He is a God that loves, that forgives, and He loves us all. Secondly, how do we approach this? One of the reasons I talk about these things, it's not the first step here is not to get every person who's doing what I did to change immediately. The first thing that I want to ignite in people's minds is have these conversations, talk about these things. Talk about these things. We watch a lot of services. We go to church and we listen to beautiful testimonies about how God has healed people. Those who were healed, those who were sick before and God heals them, they come back to the church, they serve, they do all these beautiful things. God healed me. What I went through was a sickness in itself. Why are we not comfortable as the body of God, as the body of Christ, to discuss such things, to proclaim His healing about such things? We keep them in a corner as if these are conversations of vulgar. They might sound wrong, but they are just like the person. I'm just like the person who was healed of cancer.
Oh, wow.
I'm not different from that. So let's be comfortable about these conversations because these things continue to happen. But nobody's taking responsibility of opening up about these things. As women, we can never sit down. There was a time when I gave a talk and there was about 100 women. And I said, I can assure you now, if we were brave enough and I asked, out of the 100 ladies that are in this hall, can I ask those that have had an abortion to remain behind, the rest baphume asikhulume thina laba who have done it? But I knew I could not take it that far because as people we are still thinking ukuthi adultery and yes, God can heal you from that, but it's a private topic. It's not a private topic. It's just like that person who's been healed of cancer by God and they're able to come out clear and tell the public that God has healed me, and they're still accepted back in the society. He's the same God. The same God that did that for that woman is the same God that did it for me. Why is my sickness such a private topic that people are not comfortable enough to come out and say, God has healed me? We haven't had even half of the testimonies of the beautiful things that God has done for women and men out there, because half of it no one wants to talk about.
Half of we are too ashamed to talk. So we just became. But from where? Don't talk about where we came from.
No,
but we
in church we can go in front and say how much God has blessed us financially, how much God has healed my mom, how much God has done this and this and that. What about the internal wounds that He healed for us? If we have these conversations, what the beauty about what God has allowed me to do is not the people who come out and say, oh, wow, what a great story. Thank you so much for sharing. No, no, no. The beauty of what I do is when I have one person saying, Nonhlanhla, I also had an abortion. I didn't know I had to heal from that. That's it. That's just what I want. That open conversation. Because the minute you start talking about it, it no longer describes you. Am I saying Guti, after coming out, people stopped calling me names? They did not. But unfortunately, those names no longer describe me. It ends with them. It's their issue that they don't want to move with me into my future. Let them remain there and call those names. But I now describe myself differently.
Yeah. You know, I love what you say. And that line about it's the same as being healed from cancer.
Yes.
It's the same as the shame that we attach to some illnesses, and because at the end of the day, the originator of these things is the enemy himself, and the origin of these things is sin. And truth be told, sin is a disease, sin is a sickness, and the only person you shall call his name Jesus, because he shall save his people from their sins. So if Jesus can heal me from cancer, then surely he can heal my internal wound of having had an abortion, of my internal wound of having broken someone's marriage, of all the internal wounds that we have. But the challenge with talking about them, you've touched it as well, of course, is that people carry that. There are those that choose to take that and carry it with them. And of course, there are those that choose to find life. So even as you are getting ready to share, you know that that's the risk,
Yes.
and so you must be prepared to risk it. But what I love about that is because they're young women. Life was tough, not in the 70s. You and I, my friend, were born in the late 70s. Life was tough. And we had to swim through the tide, and oftentimes we had to find our own map. Life is tough in the AMA 2000 are dealing with a lot, and the ones that are younger than them, life is even tougher. And what they don't see in us, now that we are here, I am Beauty Kotela hosting Grace Talks, what they don't see is how I got here. What they don't see is, fortunately, you, my sister, are talking and openly and candidly about it. What they don't see is how you got there, but they just see you there. And so they don't see the connection between where they are now and what they are going through now, and possibly where they want to be, because there doesn't seem to be anyone. The woman at the well, they see that. They see Mary Magdalene in the Bible, but they don't see someone in our day and age who has transcended that state to this state as a result of this Jesus. And I often say, when we hide behind whatever, the things that God has done for us, we also then denying the power of his blood. We are also denying the power of his grace. But anyway, I just thought it is me saying thank you. Thank you for bearing your wounds.
Thank you.
So that we too may be healed through the testimony that comes from your wounds. I love that. Okay, but we are out of time. We may come back at any time, reference back to the woman at the well at any time. But there's then David. You see yourself also in the story of David.
Yes. Now, David is one of the boldest people that we know of in Jesus' words. So this is God describing himself in the word, and he uses David to paint a picture of bravery. And I know most of us, we grew up knowing the brave story of David of facing the giant, right? But David continued to even create giants for himself. You know, when you've defeated a giant.
A giant outside.
People are probably thinking, no, man, this one defeated Goliath. There's no way he can do wrong. There's no way he can want to face another giant. But David went on and created such a huge stature of problems in front of him. He created those problems himself. And then again, that is Nonhlanhla. Taking accountability to say, you know what, I made these decisions. I'm the one who did this. I'm the one who said yes. I'm the one who agreed to the first date. I'm the one who asked for numbers of a doctor that can perform abortions. I did that. I used my own money to take a taxi and go and see that person. So when I see David saying, of all the giants I have faced, of all the countries I have overcome, there is a battle in me that I need to take to the Lord. He did not call his armies, even though he had. He went alone to God,
Hey,
cried, did not
hey,
eat, said, God, I
hey,
did this. I did, this is what
hey.
I did. You see, now
Only
it's
against you
different
have I
from what
sinned.
happened at the well, because at the
Yeah,
well, he tells you who you are. David
yeah.
went there and said, I
This
have
is me.
sinned.
Mm,
Why
mm,
do I love that story? Many
mm.
of us sing the gospel, we read the word, and we want God to catch up with us and say,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to fix her. At least now she's doing good. At least now she's at church. No, sometimes God waits and sits and
Mm,
want us to come and say, God,
mm,
I've done
mm.
wrong.
Yeah.
God, I
Mm,
have wronged you, and
mm,
I'm worthy of the pain much.
yeah,
David
yeah.
was crying as
Mm,
David was yearning for God to do something about his child.
mm,
He knew with
mm,
everything that was happening around him was
mm.
on his shoulders. So he
Yeah.
had to go to God. No
Mm,
other bravery is bigger than sitting with God and say, God, I have
mm.
wronged you. I
Yeah.
have wronged your people. I have
Mm,
messed up with your families. I have
mm,
messed up with your children. I've made women feel like they are nothing because I would come in my beautiful thick body and just feel witty. Their husbands will be attracted to me. God, I
mm,
have done wrong. And
mm.
that's my
Just,
point of reference when it comes to David. Yes, I
mm,
love and I glorify God for all these beautiful things that David has done.
mm.
But one
Yeah.
of the things that I admire the most with David is that we need to allow ourselves to be weak,
Mm.
because it is
Yeah.
at the point of our weakness that we
Yeah.
realize
Mm,
what is it
mm.
that broke us. David
Wow.
was weak at that time, but he had to accept what is it that broke
Mm,
him. And when he
mm,
looked at what broke him, he was
mm.
then able to see which I actually broke myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are carrying self-inflicted pain, and the reason
Mm,
why we want to continue and live in under chronic medication is because we
mm,
don't want to accept that we actually hurt ourselves.
mm,
So with
mm,
David's story, I had to sit Nonhlanhla and said, Nonhlanhla, you know what, you've messed up.
mm,
Forgive
mm.
yourself. But
Yeah.
more than anything, just accept that who osmoshi. No one
Mm,
has bewitched you. You were
yeah.
not you were not confused. It was not the pain of growing without
Yeah.
parents. It was not the
Mm,
pain of having a child at 15. It wasn't all of that. You
mm,
broke yourself. Accept
mm,
and go back to God and say, God, you gave
mm,
me and I
mm,
broke me.
mm.
Rebuild me and bring me back. And
Hey,
that is why and
create
that
in
is why
me.
even
Mm,
today, you can
mm.
never worship God without using David's words. Because
Yeah.
David allowed himself to accept the fact that
Mm,
I have broken myself, I have done
mm,
bad. David took what God gave to him as a
mm,
weapon of leading people. Yeah,
mm,
now I
mm.
is to hurt himself. And that's what I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Growing up, I knew I had the ability to speak.
Yeah.
I used to
Mm,
represent my school even at national competition when it comes to
mm.
debate. But I
Yeah.
took that confidence and splashed it out for men. I took that
Used it,
confidence and
misused it.
went
Yeah.
and did
Mm,
wrong and woke
mm,
up the next day as if nothing happened because God had
mm.
given me confidence. And
Yeah.
it was that very confidence that
Yeah.
made me live so long
Mm,
in wrong things, because I would wake up in the morning and say, who
mm,
cares? I don't care what's Batini.
mm,
That was
mm,
me using God's confidence instead
mm,
of using it for what I'm doing now. Because there are
mm,
people who say, how are you able to do this thing? I mean, I can't stand in front of people and tell them, God, I had this confidence even before.
mm.
It was the same
Yeah.
confidence that I used to go and
Mm,
destroy other people's lives. And that's
mm.
exactly what David did. David was given power and
Yeah.
he misused that power, but he went back
Yeah.
to God and said, God, this was your
Mm,
power.
yeah.
This was yours
Mm,
to start with. It's me who
mm,
selfishly used it to
mm.
gain my worldly desires. Fix
Yeah.
me.
Mm,
Fix me. God
mm.
would not have
Yeah.
written that story if He did
Mm,
not want us to talk about how much we've destroyed other people. David's story is described in its pureness. We are taken through the journey of how he planned for this. And that is why I always say to young girls, don't tell me Uguti it was a mistake. Don't tell me Uguti you met him at the party wavum. The Bible tells us Uguti David planned this thing. Why plan? He knew how he was going to do this. He knew who to send where to make sure that he has his time. So never tell me Uguti anything is just a mistake. Even having a child at 14 was not a mistake. I knew what I was doing. So the minute we walk away from the excuse that it just happened, that's when we are going to start taking responsibility and give our powers back to God. Many of us here have powers that God has given us. We are misusing them. In the workplaces, we are misusing them. We are abusing people with the power that God has given us. How many of us have taken accountability of being the cause, another woman resigning at work just because you overused your power, just because you misused your leadership role? How many of us are sitting here knowing very well good a good health, a beautiful face, a beautiful body, and you go and you want to use that to make another woman feel ukuthi they are not special to their husband just because no. God doesn't give us these things to do that.
You know, I love the story of David. Is this huge story, and the dynamics in the story are immense. But it starts on a high. I mean, everybody gets to know the David who kills the giant, the David who even as he was a young boy, he killed the giant. But David's and this is the issue of God, and when we choose to yield power to Him, it was easier for God to help David to conquer the giant without. I guys, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I just lost connectivity. So I had to quickly change source. Nonhlanhla, I hope you are back. ICC, can you hear me? Okay.
Hi, sissies. Sorry about that. I think it's Vodacom now. I'm really trying to see
it was
where the
problem on my side. It was on my side. I lost my whole connection.
Okay.
I lost. There's something about these conversations that is such a huge threat to the enemy that he wants to mute us, but we will not allow ourselves to be muted. Yeah, so sorry, ladies, about that we were that. So, but we were talking about David, and many people were picking up this, of course, the power dynamics in the story. And my point was simply this, and it is true of us as well, that God helped David to conquer the dragon without. But David battled and succumbed in the end to the dragon within. And hence he was so skillfully planned the entire Bathsheba moment, and sadly, the loss of life. But as you said, when he went back to God, he took full accountability. Full accountability. I have sinned against you, because he had sinned against so many people. But it began with him walking away from God. And when he did that, then he was able to carry it out, and therefore sinned against himself, sinned against his wife, the woman who would later be his wife, sinned against the Uriah and the family of Saul, his nation as a big king. Someone mentioned something before we continue. I thought I wanted to put this in, and we are not church bashing, ladies, but I think most of us here come from the context of the church. And I thought this is a very potent comment by Ayana Oguti. At church, we grow up that we are taught that we need to live. Ellen, we'll talk about Ellen White some other time, but basically, she's a picture of perfection. And we need to live as perfect women. And if we don't, we are failures. And so when we don't attain the perfection as projected by the church community, we feel like God can't use us, and we feel then ashamed, and therefore it becomes very difficult to go back to the same church community and say, you know what, I failed. Okay. Okay. Take this one. Okay, so not that it's just changing devices. And so we'll bring her back in just now as soon as she's ready. So basically what I was saying is that the picture perfect portrayal, and I don't know where the balance is, because we do want to put the standard up as to this is what God is calling up to. But that picture perfect portrayal, maybe the way it is put up, makes it then difficult for us to come back and say, you know what, I did not live up to the standard as portrayed, as expected, as put up by the church. But not only that, to then come back and say, no, I failed here, but not only in my failures, I did X, Y, and Z. So it becomes very, very challenging. But anyway, she's just setting up again. See her, she's here. But I'll just take a comment while she's getting ready. Yeah, yes, my queen, we need to pray, and I think we are almost there. And Kiana, I see you. Imagine what the world would be if women would use the power given to them in the right way. Absolutely, absolutely. So here, ladies, we are taking accountability for the power that we've got and the proper use of the power that we've got. But we are also opening a small gap to say, and this is back to the comment guy, and there is this First John, my favorite Bible verse. My little children, I write you these things. Nonhlanhla, your connection, my friend, is still not good. It's worse now than your other device. So First John says, my little children, I write you these things that you may not sin. I think she's frozen now. Full stop. I write you these things that you may not sin. Full stop. In other words, the standard is there. All right. But if you sin, you have an advocate with the Father. I think we spoke about this last week. You have an advocate with the Father. And once you have been with and you have given your story with the advocate, then one of the things that he gives us is the power and the ability to move on. We are having challenges again, ladies, with connection, but we will be back. Nonhlanhla will I think she's just reconnecting, and then we will continue the conversation again. It's a very interesting debate, and a challenging one as well. But I do believe, and this is where the reality and the practicality of the power of the blood comes in. This is where the reality and the practicality of the power of the blood comes in. That announcement that was given by the angel to Mary in giving the name says, you shall call his name Jesus, because he shall save his people from their sins. And And so when we acknowledge, and Nonhlanhla spoke so well about the the fact that sin is also a disease, like cancer, like HIV, like COVID, it's also a disease. And so when we have been healed from those diseases and we can testify, maybe we also need to testify. Does everybody need to come to Grace Talks? No. Does everybody need to come and stand in front of the church? No. But let someone know that I once was lost, but now I am found. All right. Okay, so are you with us now? Okay. Nonhlanhla, can you hear me? I can see her, but she can't hear me. Okay. We can hear you, Sissy. All right, can I just check with the community? Am I audible, guys? Am I still audible? Because maybe my challenge might be on my side. I want to come back to this comment by OC. She can't hear me, but I can hear I can obviously hear myself. Ladies, okay, so I am audible. So the problem then is on her side. All right. Thank you so much. Okay, she's frozen again. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. I've got that. Nonhlanhla, can you hear me now? Okay. Okay. All right. We're still having those challenges. Good morning, Zintle. It's good to see you here. Good to see you here. Thank you, guys. Listen, I want to come back to this while Nonhlanhla is reconnecting to what Usi is saying here. That accountability takes a lot of courage, and that being a victim feels more safe and comfortable. Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And I think we all need the grace of God to shift from victimhood to taking accountability and to stay in that place of accountability, because you have to when you are taking accountability, you turn the mirror to yourself, or at least you acknowledge your role in the process. It doesn't mean that you are completely 100% the one that is to be held accountable or to blame for something, but you look at your side of the window and you turn the mirror to yourself. What was my role in this whole process? Thank you for that, Sia. And Shirley says, all I know is that there is power. All I know is that the power is in realizing our imperfections. True. And in seeking our God, the more we live in pretense of being perfect, we die slow death. That is so true. And it is that pretense that kills us and kills others who would have benefited from our story. Because we put a picture that is not necessarily the same one. That is true. All right. Okay, I'm going to try one more time and see if she's able to hear us now. Can you hear us, Nonhlanhla?
Yes, I can. I've been listening. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Because on our side, you were silent. Okay. Before the enemy comes in again, I think we have discussed a lot about the whole issue of power and accountability, a responsible use of power. Before we lose time, let's go to the woman with the issue of blood in your story.
Yes. So that one is very easy, and I think I always try to make it relatable, especially to ladies. With the woman with the issue of blood, my message is go to God bleeding. Don't wait to clean yourself up. Go to God bleeding. And as you go to God bleeding, push against all odds. People are going to stop you. People want to try and clean you first. Maybe you're staying. You know when we are in our cycle, right? You always want to be careful that there's no stain around you. Don't look at that when you go to God. Whether there is that stain or not, go to God bleeding. And when you get to God, do not be apologetic. What that woman did was that she took what.
I have to. We have to stop here. I know we're gonna continue, but I'm gonna walk away with that this week. Go to God bleeding.
Go to God bleeding.
Go to God stinking.
Yes.
Go to God dirty. Go to God go to God basically as you are. Because we wait to be better?
Go to God still in that relationship. Go to God cleaning yourself of the abortion. Go to God bleeding. Go to him bleeding.
Yeah.
Go to God bleeding. And when you get there, don't be apologetic about what you want. Remember, big change comes with big steps. That woman knew that she wanted to be clean. She knew she wanted to be clean. I can imagine that if it was in our times, maybe you've already been told what type of pets to use that absorb better. The world gives you pets that can absorb better. In our wrongdoings, in us feeling as victims, I love what another lady said here, that it's always comfortable to live as a victim. In our victim mode, the world gives us pets that can absorb better. The world gives us things that we can drink to stop the bleeding, and forget about that. Go to God bleeding. Mr. Patko Mafan is saying that as well, to say, go to God bleeding. Do not wait for the blood to dry out. Go to God in that relationship and say, God, I don't know. I don't know if I have the power to tell him, angisafuni. I don't know if I have the power to say to him, go back to your wife, love your children, forget about me. But God, here I am. Go to him in that plan. And when you get there, don't be apologetic. Don't get there and say, but God, uzegimi, mina bengazi ukuthi ngenzeni. But God, I was young. Just take what is yours. What is yours is the healing that will stop the bleeding. Let's stop negotiating. Let's stop negotiating our wrongs with people and with God. The reason why my story is used with different people is that when I talk about being pregnant at 14, is only when I talk to young people. And I tell them, good guys, mina beng papa, I thought muhle kakhulu esikolweni. And I ran up and down instead of being in class. Bangbona bafana bangenzani bangigile. That's how I put the message. But I'm not going to come here and say I went and ruined somebody else's marriage because I had a child at 14. No. Why do we keep making excuses of our pains to hurt other people? And then we have people that are comfortable saying,
Yeah, we are. Continue.
Yes, so we can't have that excuse. It is an excuse. That's what it is. It is an excuse. So I am saying, let's go to God bleeding. Many of us would have moved away from our point of wrong if we could only take that walk, bleeding as you are. Just take that walk towards him. And when you get there, that woman gives us magic. She gets there, she doesn't even see this person doesn't even look at him in the face, but just touches the hem of his garment. She claims what is his. But then she took the walk. Many of us are waiting for our pastors to pray for us out of sin. No one's going to pray for you out of that mess. You need to walk out of it, bleeding as you are. Carrying the names, it's okay. Carrying the shame, it's okay. Just go to him bleeding. We're waiting for the blood to dry, but it's not drying out. Instead, it keeps on repeating itself.
And we're running out of money trying to heal it somewhere else.
It gets worse. Yes. Why do you think she touched the hem? She probably wanted to dry herself. It was bleeding so much that all she needed was a cloth. Some of us don't even need a hug from God. We just need a piece of him so that we can wipe off what we are doing. So just go to him bleeding. Do not wait. I had to go. People were surprised why. People would even think I don't deserve to pray because of the things that I've done. Don't let the world make you feel like that. Whatever situation you are in now, you still have a right to pray. You still have a right to call him. Bleeding as you are, you still have a right. Go past the and really, I don't want this to be taken in a wrong way, but I'm saying even go past your pastors. That woman went past the 12 disciples. They were surprised how she got there, but she went past them because she needed to get the blood to stop. She was enough now with all the pets that can suck up more than the others. She was enough with everything that she's been told to drink. She was enough going to church and waiting at the door and waiting for the pastor to then pass on her request to God. She had to go through them. And they were left surprised. Who touched you? No, no one touched you. We've been here, Baba. We've been here guarding you. He said, I know somebody touched me. So go claim your righteousness, even in the midst of people that think they are more righteous than you. Many of us don't want to move from wrong because righteous.
Yeah.
Many of us continue to do wrong because we are okay with our community of wrongdoers. I can imagine she had other people who would say, Nami, I've had this problem before. Because none of us are doing anything that is not known. People have done them before. But we just want to remain with those because they tell you, Nami, I've done it before. Because you
actually carrying the dying.
No, you are dying when inside.
Yeah.
So just go to him.
Yeah, I think go to God bleeding. That's going to be the hashtag or the thing for the week, and that hit me right between the eyes. And then I pressed through the crowd, past the so-called people around Jesus, past the so-called people around Jesus from their very levels, from their different levels, pressed through the crowd because healing you and go get your healing. Go to God bleeding. Go, because this in a practical level is when we have sinned against God, when you have messed up, one of the least things you want to do is to pray. You do not want to pray. And of course, the winner in that process is the devil himself, the one that facilitated your fall, the one that facilitated your bleeding, and the one that is interested in your continuous bleeding is the one that's also going to perpetuate the message. You can't go to God now. Go tomorrow. Not today. Not when you are still bleeding. Not when you are still pregnant. Not when you are still in that relationship. This morning you woke up there, but you happen to be at church and an altar call is being made. You don't want to go because you still have the affair. Go to God bleeding, my friend. Go to God bleeding. And I'm losing this grace talk. We're gonna have to. But I want to talk about shame. Because shame is an internalized response to an external supposed stimuli. Because the shame we feel, yes, it is from those people who would say, who do you think you are? There are people shame. There are people with courage. In my language, say, or is gila who would look at you knowing what they know about you and say, how dare you after you have done X, Y, and Z. But most of the time, Nonhlanhla, shame does not come from people's voices. It comes from what we think people are going to say. So we ascribe a voice, and the person behind that is the enemy, and he speaks in us, through us. But we have to acknowledge that it does happen. And someone says that shame is so paralyzing, and the evil one capitalizes on that so much that it holds us hostage. Many a times we don't go to get our healing. We don't press through the crowd because we can't get over the voices in our heads. We can't quiet the noises in our heads about the things that we have done. Now, you have been through that. Speak to us about the shame and your journey with God, maybe even the things that he said to you in that time, in that dark spot, that allowed you to break through to get to where you are now and where you are on a journey to.
Yeah. Before, when shame was still controlling my state of mind, I had not seen the lesson out of my journey. So the day I divorced shame was the day I realized, and it will sound so arrogant and so wrong to other people, but the day I divorced shame was the day I accepted that I had to go through that because somebody needs to learn something out of me.
Yeah.
So what I then did was, and it was not a one-day thing. I don't want to lie. It did not just happen miraculously. I worked on myself, God worked on me, and I said, how do I turn this into a positive thing? So many of us are carrying our shame and it's heavy on us. I always say, for those people who use business terms, right? Turn that shame into buying power. Turn it into buying power. And how do you do that? Say, yes, I went through that. Because there's two things about shame. Oh no, people can't know. To those that know, oh no, they can't keep reminding me. They will. And why do they have to remind you if you can remind yourself when? Because once you move away from shame, you will accept that I was part of the wrong. But more than anything, you will accept that it had to be you. And you're going to turn that into a lesson for somebody else. Sometimes even for yourself. I've had to learn from my former self so much. And I explained this last week a bit when I spoke about the time in my life when I was now desperate to be in a marriage. And I messed things up, right? I messed things up. I stayed with somebody and I was guarding them 24 hours. I was always paranoid about what they're doing, where they're going and everything, until I sat down with myself and I said, Nonhlanhla, are you ready to face you? Remember, zonke lezi zinto lezi uzenzile. You see them even when they're not happening because you've done that and you've been there before. So the question was, Nonhlanhla, are you ready to face you? Because the you that was you back then would actually frustrate people the way you are frustrated, Konamaj. And I said, you know what? Shame is going to keep me here. Shame is going to keep me here demanding more than what I could give to people. Let me go fix myself. So you walk away from shame with a lesson until you find that lesson. Until you find that lesson, shame will continue to control you. Because like you said, shame is just what you think of what they're saying. They are right.
And it's meant to ground you. Yeah. And it's meant to ground you. It's meant to keep you right where you are, stewing in that.
We can't be angry. Remember, they're right. They're quoting the things that we did. It's only that to us, they still remain that, the wrong that I did. It's no longer the wrong that I did today. It's the process I went through to be right.
Wow.
It's the process I went through to be right. So yes, it looks like it's shameful for them to say those things, but it's a process I went through to be right. What story would I be telling today if I had been a perfect girl? What story would I be telling today? How would I relate to David? How would I relate to the woman at the well if I did not go through that? It's okay. I went through it. But I'm glad that I lived to tell the story.
Yeah. Thank you.
So moving away from shame takes just that first step of accepting that it had to be you. You had to do that. But now find the lesson out of that. And you don't have to start public like this. I also did not start public. I actually went back to my former high school. My first talk was at my former high school where I went and I started speaking to students. And I came out with two girls who said to me, I also had a child when I was young. My family doesn't love me. And I knew that here comes a journey now ahead of me to use this story to correct others. And that's all I did to walk away from shame.
I think this is a fitting comment as we are bringing this to a close. And it links to what you're saying now about the girls. As much as the relationship, somebody says in the Facebook group, is no more, the shame has been breaking me bit by bit. Thank you for throwing me a lifeline. Keeping up appearances is exhausting. And I'm in tears now, somebody's saying, and going to God bleeding. It's the same thing, I think, for many of us. And the thing about shame is that it paralyzes you, it keeps you there, and it keeps you from your next level. It keeps you from your next level because you are there. You don't feel, And we know the devil is a liar, but he's a cunning liar. His lies are not as obvious as we might make them come across when we say the devil is a liar. He's a very cunning liar. I've seen people who blame themselves. They've taken accountability, Nonhlanhla, for what they've been through. They've taken accountability, but now they then use it. When I say they, the devil's voices in them uses their mistakes and their moments of is it Jesus who says on the cross, forgive them, Lord, because they do not know what they do. So there are moments of not knowing. The enemy uses that as the cause for what they are going through now. You know, that whole issue of you are being punished. You're being punished.
Yeah.
And I don't want us to go into that because that's a whole another discussion. But basically the enemy will call, and that is how, by the way, the cycle of drugs, substance abuse comes in, because he will make you take substances and then you experience something that says, but you are being punished for what you've done. And now you are in pain. And then he says, oh, take more of this so that you can feel less of the pain. So he for some of us, he passed the guilt, past the shame, he takes us to the next phase, and that is guilt, where you now start to explain the bad things that have happened to you or are happening to you, dare I say, my friend, even to your children, as the cause is my sins of yesterday. I did this, that's why I'm going through this. I did this, that's why my children are going through this. And for us to get to past that, I don't know if you've got something that you want to say.
So if there's one thing that I have learned, and again, I'm going to sound so controversial. If there's one thing that I've learned, everything God does and gives to us is enough. It is more than enough. The one thing that is not enough is His forgiveness. Because after His forgiveness comes your own. So the only time God's forgiveness really works in our lives is when we meet it halfway with our own forgiveness. If we don't forgive ourselves, we will go back to that point, because everything, until you forgive yourself, everything that happens is because you did this and this. When you are worthy of judgment, you are worthy of the punishment, because punishment has been given and it's right here. So you need to meet it halfway. For you to meet it halfway is for you to forgive yourself. Whatever it is that you did today. I just want to say this morning, forgive yourself. You do not deserve pain for what you did. What you did has been forgiven. The one person who is not forgiven here is you, and you owe yourself that forgiveness. Because every time you feel that you deserve to be punished, the next time you do that, do you know that the one relationship I've referred to, which was the longer one, was not the only one. There were times we fled married men again, because I felt like I've done this thing before. I mean, I've already
Yeah, this has been a challenging Grace Talk in a number of ways. One, I think we have touched on it.
Sorry about that.
Okay, you're back. Okay. You can continue.
Yeah. So I was saying, every time I did it, I did not feel like I'm sinning, because I was still in the same position. Every time I would flirt with a married man, it did not feel like I'm doing anything new. I guess I've done it before, already declared I deserve all the punishment that comes with it. But when I forgave myself, I said no more. When I forgave myself, I moved away from that. And every time I thought of it, it felt like I was sinning all over again, because I've now gone past my forgiveness. So go past your forgiveness. Go past your forgiveness. Yes, I know God has forgiven you, but that is not enough. You still
forgive yourself.
Give yourself a break. Tell yourself you deserve better.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break. Tell yourself you deserve better. Move to a better place.
And change friendships if you must. Sometimes the reminder is in the circle of friends that you keep. as you are busy transitioning from the one person to another. We are again having connection problems, but we are at the end of this broadcast. And Nonhlanhla is now frozen. Ladies and gents, thank you, Chawe, for joining us. I have seen your comments and I've appreciated your comments. We have had a word today. Somebody says, what a word. We have had a word today. And I'm going to try and see if Nonhlanhla can have concluding remarks, but I'm not sure. Are you still able to conclude, Sissy? We are breaking on our side. Okay, all right. It has just been one of those, but I think we've gotten everything that God had in store for us in this episode. I want to share with you the lyrics of a song. You know it. It's one of my favorite songs. It is what keeps me going, because as Nonhlanhla is telling her story, many of us find ourselves in her story. And I know, as she was talking, I thought I wanted to put my hand and say, I am that woman. Remember Hannah, when she went to God, it says, I am that woman. I am that woman myself. I'm here. Many people ask, why do you do what you do? I do what I do because I found grace. I am that woman. And one of my favorite songs on the issue of shame, on the issue of guilt, on the issue of going to God bleeding. There is a fountain filled with blood, drawn from Emmanuel's veins, where sinners plunge beneath and lose all their guilty stains. That for me is my songs. It gives me courage to go from who I used to be to who I am now. And one of the lines I love, redeeming love has been my theme, and it shall be till I die. Not just love, but redeeming love. And many of us know that grace is my theme. The sufficiency of His grace is my theme, and shall be till I die. Sissy, are you able to conclude? We keep losing you, but let's give you an opportunity to make the concluding remarks.
Yeah, thank you so much. Again, I'm not even going to apologize for the bad network, because I can see somebody has really been trying to fight us doing this, but I know God has spoken.
Yeah, she's breaking again. Okay, all right, ladies. As she was saying, that this one, there's so many forces that we are pushing against, but we have pushed and we have prevailed. You are back, Sissy? Okay, all right. Right, we are going to have to bring it to an end here, ladies. We have gotten what we needed from it, and in her absence, I hope that she'll come back and be able to hear these proceedings. She says thank you, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Nonhlanhla, for bearing your scars. My queen has this comment: the healing continues, and it's a journey. Healing is a journey. All right, healing is a journey, but it starts by forgiveness. And as she has said, forgiveness. And of course, the first we need is the forgiveness of Jesus, but then forgiving ourselves, so that you don't carry the guilt of whatever it is that takes place outside, whether it's a result of your actions or not. It may be, it may not be, but bottom line is you have been forgiven. I love, one of my favorite songs, I've been forgiven and I'm free. All right, I'm free to continue. So I wish to thank the CEO and the woman in progress herself, Nonhlanhla Mthembu, for the work that she's doing. In my language, city chocho, chochubeko, chocho this, chocho that. And when we say that, we are saying, while your experiences have been unpleasant and they may even still look ugly, but we thank God. We thank God for those experiences, because in your experiences, we also have found something that we can use to build our own lives. And another one, in my language also, we say, intaka yaka ngoboya benye. In other words, we build our own nests by plucking out feathers from other people's nests. And then I always like to twist that quote of Marianne Williamson, where she says, that it is, the whole quote about our deepest fear, blah, 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 blah. And then she says, when we let our light shine in front of others, we inadvertently give others permission to do the same. So when we let our light shine, we allow other people, by them observing our light, we allow them also to let their light shine. But I want to say, and we've got evidence of people who have done that here. Abosiya have written the book, My Queen Will Come, and is going to be a speaker at our conference. People, I'm putting you back on to see people who have not only just let their light shine, but who have shown some of their wounds. And in doing so, and in showing their wounds, sometimes even as they were bleeding, we now know to go to God bleeding. They've also allowed us to also have a moment to heal our own wounds. So I want to thank you, Nonhlanhla, for what you have done. And you are still frozen. Can you hear me at least? Can you hear me, Sissy? I can hear myself in the background. Okay. All right. Okay, I think, ladies, we've gotten the gist of it. I'm going to just close with a word of prayer, because we do want to thank God for this. We do want to thank God for this. So let us pray, and then I'll let you go have your Sunday. And can I just ask you, please? I know it was full of glitches, but there's lots of life that is found in this grace talk. So share with someone. All right, share with someone. Swan says we need to hear her closing remarks. I want to hear them as well, but network just seems to be against us. But share so that because the gist of it was actually quite clear. All right, now I'm going to close with a word of prayer, and then we'll take it from there. Dear Lord, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I think that's the word that comes to my mind. Thank you. Thank you for Nonhlanhla. Thank you for what you are doing and have done in her life. Thank you for the blood of Jesus, which makes it possible that in spite of our shame, in spite of our guilt, in spite of our wounds, in spite of our very own mistakes, that blood is so powerful that if we plunge beneath, we are able to lose our guilty stains and come here and not only have survived, but be vessels of your mercy, be vessels of your grace. I pray a special blessing over Nonhlanhla and the work that she does. May she continue, Lord, because in doing it, she is saving. Not only is she saving those who are languishing now in shame and guilt, but it helps many young people to not even get themselves to that place of shame and that place of guilt. And when all is said and done, it is your grace that we want to put out there in billboards of this world for people to know that the grace of God has appeared to all men, that the grace of God, which brings salvation, has appeared to all men. And that grace is sufficient for all of us to not just live, but to live our best life, to live life in abundance, powered by that very grace. Thank you for your daughters and your sons that have been joining us this morning, healing, dear Lord. We come before you now. Father, we come before you bleeding. We come before you bleeding. But we thank you that even if we touch a small part of your garment, that we shall be made well, but we are also going to be made holy. We pray for that faith, therefore, to press through the crowd, to push past the rubble of fame, of shame and guilt, and press towards you. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay, all right. She's not back here. Ladies, I think we close it here. Thank you so much. All right, what she will do is she will send us closing remarks and we will share with you guys during the week. Thank you so much, Nonhlanhla. I absolutely love that. All right, have a blessed week, guys. Thank you.